Well, today's topic, offer letters. Ha! You should have known it was coming. If you watched or listened to the show here a couple of weeks ago, you heard me talk about employment contracts. And, it was interesting. I started thinking about that show and I thought, oh gosh, we probably should break down the contents of an offer letter. Because how many of you are out there looking at jobs, or maybe you signed your offer letter a long time ago and you don't remember what's in it? So let's make sure that if offer letters are being written today, they've got the right language in it. You're listening to The Human Resource. My name's Pandy Pridemore. We're here in the ICRC-TV station in Cincinnati, Ohio. And offer letters. Remember, they're not employment contracts. They're not. Offer letters are a document to specify the terms of employment. I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. I remember years and years ago, everybody wanted to extend employment, get a handshake, and that was it. Anymore, we can't do that. We absolutely cannot do that. So let's talk about the contents. Obviously, date the document, date it the day you're putting it together, and include the individual's full name. So do it like an old-fashioned formal letter. On November 18th, we're extending, 18th, 2022, we're going to extend employment to Pandy Pridemore at such and such address in such and such city. Dear Pandy. And in that first paragraph, let's not get to anything really fluffy or frilly. This is a business transaction, right? This is a business communication, a business document. So let's talk. This is the position. And by the way, the position is going to be classified or is a full-time, part-time. Don't forget to include exempt or non-exempt. Remember, if an individual doesn't know whether they're exempt or non-exempt, they don't know whether they're eligible for overtime or not. So not only is full-time, part-time, but non-exempt is very, very important. Then let's talk about the hourly rate. Everybody wants to know what they're going to get paid, without a doubt. And if it is hourly, then say it's hourly. If it's non-exempt at the top, remember, it could be a salary. We talked about that here a couple shows ago. So non-exempt can be either hourly or a negotiated rate of a salary. But if it's hourly, say hourly. If it is a negotiated rate, whether it's non-exempt or exempt, put that rate in not as an annual rate, but as a per pay period. And here's the thinking behind that. Help this new hire to understand that you're only obligated to that individual per pay period. You work, you're going to work to this pay period. I'm not even going to allude to the thought that this relationship is going to be on an annual basis. I've gotten a lot of pushback on this with the highly professional positions. I had clients that employed physicians and PhDs who, again, are highly compensated, and they felt it was insulting to them to put a per pay period when the individual felt more rewarded and more valued if they could see the annual rate. And my response to that was, do they not do math? Can they not put together that if they're paid $1,000 a week, that would come up to $52,000 a year? And if they can't do that, what are we hiring them for? So I I know. Sometimes I can be a little straightforward, but come on, you get the point. Let's not make any promises. Let's not allude. Let's not, again, perception. Let's not lead to a perception that the individual is going to be employed for a year. We're going to pay you per pay period that you work. Then many times individuals like to put in these offer letters who the position will report to. And here's a suggestion on that. Because people come and go, start by just putting the position of the who this individual will be reporting to. They will be reporting to the director of marketing. They'll be reporting to the VP of operations. Not, they'll be reporting to Julie Bauer. They'll be reporting to Rick Scott. Remember, Rick might leave. That doesn't mean that this employee is going to follow Rick. It means that Rick left. And whoever replaces Rick, that's who this position and this person will report to. So think about that and look at how you're doing your offer letters now and make recommendations that moving forward, you don't put names there. Start dates are always important. And many times I've seen companies put to be determined, TBD. And that's nice if you truly haven't negotiated an actual start date, but be careful. Because what you don't want is this individual to hang you, accept the offer, sign the letter, but never give you a start date. Because they're still out there applying for other jobs to see if they can make more money. So in circumstances where you're really confident that the individual is committed to you, I get the TBD. However, best practices would state to be determined to be no later than, and then put a cutoff date. And you can do that. Absolutely, you can do that. What about location? I think putting a location, this position will report to the office or the corporate office at such and such address. What's really nice in today's world is this is a great opportunity for you to establish an essential work function of whether the individual needs to be in the office or whether remote work is possible. So this position will report to the corporate office at 6271 Sharon Road or work remotely no more than 2 days a week. Whatever you think is going to be the best representation of what your expectations are for this working relationship, I would highly recommend, if you can, get it in that very initial offer letter. It will be a wonderful foundation of understanding that you can refer back if the individual decides, well, wait a minute, I really want to work remote all week. I really need to work remote 4 days a week. You can go back to the offer letter and remind them, but I told you and you signed agreeing that you were going to work in the office and remote no more than 2 days a week. Obviously, every employee wants to know about eligibility of benefits, so that's a standard part of an offer letter, and absolutely put in there what the eligibility is. But the thing you don't want to do in an offer letter is be so specific. Well, we're going to contribute $30 or $300, or you're going to have this Anthem plan, and you get this wellness program, and you get. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't lock yourself in. Though everyone expects benefits to change, everybody understands the flexibility around benefit enrollment, you don't want to give them the perception that you will always be paying $30 or $300 towards their premium. You have to allow yourself the discretion to change if this is going to be a long-term relationship. And remember, benefits, without a doubt, are going to continue changing. So give them just enough, and maybe if anything, you put in there the plan description or the plan summary is available upon request. That's quite appropriate. Or let them know once they become eligible, HR will be sitting down with them and working through this. It's kind of like that clause that you see in a lot of offer letters where it says you will be required to provide evidence of employment eligibility, meaning you will sit down with HR and you will have to provide these documents. You will be required to sign an employee handbook. You will be required to complete certification. That's all appropriate to put in an offer letter because, again, we're talking the terms of employment. And if these are conditions of the employment, and one of the reasons you want this individual, then absolutely, it's totally appropriate to put in an offer letter. One of the things that are absolutely essential, though, and this is a non-negotiable, guys, if you are working with an offer letter versus an employment contract, the at-will employment clause has to be added. You know, it's interesting. One of my attorneys absolutely loves to see the at-will employment signed 3 times. You start with the application. Application should have at the back, I understand that if I am employed with this company, it will be at will. Then the second is the offer letter. I understand this is an at-will employment relationship. There is no contract. And then the third is your handbook. Because if you're going to exercise at will and you decide at some point, 6 months, 6 years, that this isn't working out and you just want to part ways, you now have 3 signatures. You made it very clear to that employee, at some point during this relationship, I may exercise at-will employment, just as at some time during this relationship, you might exercise at-will employment and leave me. So that's a non-negotiable. Make sure your offer letter has it. And then my big add that most people miss is that I love to see expiration dates in an offer letter. This offer is good until, or a signed copy of acceptance of this offer letter must be in our office or received by email by the end of business on this date. Why is this so important? Okay, guys, let's go back to where we are in the workforce right now. If someone seriously wants a job, they're ready to sign. As soon as you put it in front of them, they will be ready to sign. Some, of course, want to think about the pay offer. They want to think about the benefits. Maybe even they want to talk to the broker about the benefits, and that's okay. But you don't want an open-ended offer. You're the employer. Take control of this process. If I don't get the signed offer letter by this date, the offer's null and good. You can change the terms of an offer letter if that expiration date is not met. And come on, if they don't know whether they want to work for you or not, based on all this great information that you've put into the offer letter, maybe you don't want them. But an offer letter is good. An offer letter is great. And an offer letter can solve so many problems moving forward if it's done correctly. But that's just my advice. Because you've been listening to the Human Resource